In 1993, a game called Metamore Jupiter released on the PC Engine CD, a side-scrolling shoot-em-up with a soundtrack composed by Masaya Matsuda of the musical group Size. He had been working with the group since its inception, but they were reaching a fork in the road, as Matsuda was growing tired of being a part of this group. It's why he jumped at the idea of composing a video game. He wanted to spice things up, and would eventually help create a game for their band in a distinctive visual style, flat animated 2D elements in a 3D world. This experimental game was a step towards what he really wanted, a way for people to interact with music and make it more engaging and exciting. He had always been fond of rap, and felt that making a game where you press buttons to make rhymes flow would be perfect, and that was the beginning of the rhythm genre as we know it today.
I'm a musician, so I don't feel any wall between music and me. So I want to erase this kind of wall.
Nothing like it had really been done before. He made a crude and simple demo of a sort of Simon Says rap game. After getting in touch with Sony, he got together a team. This was the beginning of the development studio. Matsuda got in touch with Ryu Watabe, who would write most of the raps for the game, and voice several characters in the series. They developed the story together with Gavin Ito, as they fleshed out a wild and wacky cartoon world. But of course, they wanted a unique art style to go along with it. Enter Rodney Greenblatt. In 1994, Rodney had been hired by Sony to design cute characters for clothing and toys. As it turns out, Matsuda was already a fan of Rodney's style, and when he found out that Rodney was already working for Sony, he asked if they could let him work on their new game. They told Rodney they wanted a naive, upbeat little dog guy, and Rodney got to work. After a short phase of Parappa wearing a cap, we eventually got the design we know and love today. Gavin Ito would invent all kinds of wacky characters and concepts, and Rodney would try to visualize these wild ideas. And that's how the world of Parappa got its look and feel. Parappa the Rapper released on the original PlayStation on December 6, 1996 in Japan, and 1997 internationally. The game is in English in every region, though the Japanese version comes with Japanese subtitles, which you can switch to English if you want. It opens with a gang watching Jet Baby, a super cool superhero who loves children and, according to Katie Capp,
he can probably beat Superman. Shut up!
Katie is the cool, somewhat hot-headed friend of the group. PJ Berri is literally me in real life, only sleeping and eating. Sunny Funny is the girl of Parappa's dreams, a sweet and silly little flower girl. Two bullies start to harass the gang, but
there's no need to fear, because Joe Chin is here.
Joe Chin is Parappa's sort of rival in this game, as he's also vying for Sunny's affection. Parappa wishes he was tough enough to stand up to these bullies, and we go into our first song, where we train with Chop Chop Master Onion, voiced by Ryu Watabe.
Here we go now, kick, punch, block. Kick, punch, block. Chop, kick, block.
The core gameplay is very simple. You just push the right buttons to the rhythm. The 4 face buttons and L and R is all you need. Each button press corresponds to a part of the lyrics, so the more you mess up, the sillier it sounds.
Put the cake in the oven for a while. Put cake in the oven for a while. Leave it there, come on, clean the pile. Clean the pile.
You can also just do your own thing, which will either quickly lead to failure or to a freestyle rap that will get you into cool mode, where everything becomes wild and wacky and you can just spam buttons however much you want, though you gotta try to stay on rhythm. Cool mode is only accessible after having beaten the game at least once, but I suck at staying in cool mode, so I always fall back down. Rapping along to Chop Chop's raps is simple and fun, and the music is amazing. The instrumentation is so wild and fun, and the lyrics are just so silly and enjoyable. It just has fun with itself. Clearing this rap sends us back to the diner, where Joe Chin has talked so much that everyone leaves and the police pass out. Joe Chin shows up to show off his cool car and takes everyone to the beach. Parappa's kinda screwed, sitting in the back seat getting exhaust all over him, which is a hilarious design choice by the car manufacturers. And Parappa decides that he has to get his license. And so begins possibly the most iconic rap in the series.
Alright, we're here, just sitting in the car. I want you to show me if you can get far.
You try to pass a driving exam by rapping, and following the raps of your instructor, who's named Mussolini, because she's a moose, and also, I don't know why they chose Mussolini as it's a weird name. It's like, I don't know if that's just meant to be a joke because she's strict. It's really strange, but whatever. And that's the Parappa formula. A silly situation comes up, Parappa says his catchphrase,
yeah, I know, I gotta believe.
you're on to a new rap. And eventually, when needing to use a public bathroom, you have to challenge all your previous mentors to a rap battle so you can get to the toilet first. It's so goofy, I love it. There are only 6 songs in this game, but considering it's essentially the first ever rhythm game, and the fact that each song sounds different depending on how well you're doing as the instrumentation changes, I think only 6 songs is more than fair. Though I feel like timing the button presses in the first game is probably the hardest to get right. I find it easier to pay attention to the lyrics and the rhythm more than the visuals. Something about the timing of the inputs in this particular game makes it feel like I have to press a little bit after I think I have to, just judging by the visual indication. And that can be a little bit annoying to get used to. I feel like the later games definitely got this more right. But once you adjust to it, it's still a fun time. I think this game has aged pretty well overall. By getting cool rank on all stages, you can also unlock this. It's not a new song, you just press buttons to swap outfits while Sonny and Kitty dance. It's a really weird unlockable, but it's something. Overall, I think it's a great game. I can't imagine how weird it was to pick up a rhythm game back then. It was a brand new idea, no one had really done anything like it. The art style is so unique and the characters are so charming. There's a lot of funny jokes and gags, and you just want to see things turn out good for Parappa. He's a sweet little boy, he deserves it. Instead of a direct sequel, we get a spin-off called Jammer Lammy. It starts once again with a Jet Baby movie, this time with much more impressive CGI. We see the group leave the cinema. Kitty Cat is joined by her bandmates Masan and Lammy. Katie is the vocalist and bassist, Masan is the drummer and producer, and Lammy is the lead guitarist and co-vocalist. Together they have formed a band called Milk Can. The first stage features a wild dream sequence where Lammy arrives just on time to a concert, and Chop Chop Master Onion has become their new vocalist, so Lammy grabs her iconic guitar and starts shredding. Which of course means that this time around we're not rapping, but instead we're listening to someone rap or sing, and then we play notes that sort of mirror their tone. Something funny is that the lyrics that Master Onion raps hint to all the events that happen later in the game. After clearing the stage, Master Onion lets us know that he's lost his dojo, but he tells Lammy that if he can keep the dojo in his mind, then he still has strength. And so Lammy realizes that if the guitar is in her mind, she can always call on that strength. It becomes this simple but very endearing message about inner strength. Lammy is a very, very nervous, anxious, and shy person, but throughout the game she does so much crazy shit, and Katie knows that Lammy has the strength she needs inside her already. It's a very simple story about gaining confidence, and it makes Lammy such a likable character, you just want to root for her. And her design goes so hard, it's such an adorable and cool character, and throughout the game she keeps using various things as guitars. Of course, after waking up from the dream, Lammy also realizes that she only has 15 minutes to get to the concert, and that's the plot of the game, the increasingly wild things Lammy has to deal with, such as putting out a fire, putting babies to sleep, help flying a plane, make her own guitar, and even slip, fall, die, go to hell, and then the game does like a fake out credit scene before Lammy gets dragged back into the game and needed to play a guitar concert in hell to get back to life. Of course, in the US version, and only that version, she's flung to a faraway island instead of hell. There's also a few lyrics changed throughout the franchise to remove words like hell and lord and a few other things. Again, only the US version has anything censored. The PAL versions are essentially the same as the Japanese ones. Also, a big shout out to the song Got to Move. It's one of my favorites in the whole franchise and the final song of this game. It's just such a banger. Honestly, this game goes so hard. And not only do you have 7 main songs instead of just 6, but this game comes with a 2-player mode where you can try to out-guitar a friend, where one plays as Rami, who comes from hell. And even more than that, Parappa has remixed rap versions of almost all the songs in the game. It comes with its own story and short cutscenes. It features Parappa, PJ Berri, and Sonny Funny trying to help Milk Can set up a really cool concert.
How's this? Wow, that's cool. Can I see it from the side? Hey, that's really nice.
And you can even play 2 players with one person rapping and one playing guitar. So there's way more content in this game. Also, I say almost all songs because the first song with Master Onion was supposed to be included in the Parappa mode but wasn't finished. Though we did get to see it in full thanks to the arcade game Jammer Lammy NOW. Sony and developer Nana Onsha worked with Namco to produce this wild and wacky looking cabinet with 2 guitars. There's brand new FMV cutscenes fully voiced in English created just for this. No one could find this cabinet for years, was pretty obscure and didn't do very well, and it was only released in Japan. Suddenly, famous TV personality and actor Jonathan Ross, of all people, showed off that he owned one, and members of the Parappa community were allowed to fly to him, play the game, back up the ROM, put it online, and record all the cutscenes for people to finally enjoy. I'll link the videos about this below, it's a great watch. Some of the most fun stuff that we got out of the arcade game was all these interviews of the characters, like Katie being asked what she thinks of her friends.
Oh, Lemmy, she's a tough girl. She's got real headstrong girls. She knows what she wants out of life. My son, heavy-hitting drummer, no doubt.
Lammy being asked about what it's like to be shy.
Yeah, I guess you could say I do feel disadvantaged sometimes, because I'm not very good at talking to people unless they're my good friends like Katie and Ma-san.
And Ma-san being asked questions such as how long she's been producing music. I also wanted to mention that Milk Can, the fictional band of the game, released a real CD you could purchase. It contained both of the songs that they sung in the game, Got to Move and the credits song Keep Your Head Up, but it also features Milk Can covers of all the other songs from Jammer Lammy. I really adore the covers of Fright Flight and Fire Fire. They're all sung by Katie's voice actor Michelle Burks, whose performance is just so great. And also the version of Got to Move on this CD featured Parappa's lyrics from his rap remix of the song. They integrated so perfectly that it feels like it's always been a part of the original song. It's so great. And Jammer Lammy Now gave us this awesome music video for it too.
I'm facing all the problems that'll get me. Facing the problems that'll get me. 'Cause I don't really wanna spend the time, see. I don't wanna spend no time, see.
And to add to this, there was yet another CD released by Parappa and his friend PJ Berri. Since PJ Berri is a producer and DJ in Universe, I guess he and Parappa figured they'd make a good team. It's called I Scream. The instrumentals are just the same songs that Parappa raps over in Jammer Lammy, but with brand new lyrics by the voice actor. I also should mention the game that Nanansha developed around this time, Vibribun. I've already made a retrospective on that series and you can check it out here, but it was another great experiment in the genre of rhythm games, and a really good time. If you don't know, the main gimmick of the game is that you can place any CD into the PS1 and the game will make tracks out of it and you can play basically endless music. And the original songs made for the game are great too. It's an iconic rhythm game that sadly never released in North America, but thankfully we got it in PAL regions. Due to that though, the game has become very expensive, because a lot of people from the States have been importing it from Europe. But I recommend you try it any way you can, because it's awesome. As the new millennia began, a proper sequel to Parappa was well into development. There was a demo of the game released on a promotional McDonald's PS2 disc. It included a demo of Parappa 2 and Ape Escape, and the cover art featured character costumes made for commercials and events. The series was already proving to be very popular, especially in Japan, so I can only imagine how excited everyone was for Parappa the Rapper 2. This time around, the characters have this slight shading to them, and I gotta admit, I kinda prefer the more flat colors of the first two games, but regardless, I think it looks good. The game starts with yet another Jet Baby movie, but this time around it turns into a nightmare as Parappa is just having a bad dream about noodles. He won a free lifetime supply of noodles, and now he's sick of them. He goes over to meet his friends at the house of his beloved Sunny Funny, but turns out she's serving noodles. Parappa freaks out and gets called a baby, so he runs away and decides that he has to find out how to truly grow up. This game gives you some really nice visual indication of how well you're doing with timing. It's probably the easiest game in the franchise, but that doesn't make it bad, not at all. This game is amazing, the songs are so great. It might have my favorite soundtrack in the series. Most of the voice actors return from their roles too, and it makes me happy to see Lammy and Ma-san in the game as well, as they, together with Katie, form Milk Can to help Parappa out with one of the tracks. The story in this one is just so funny, and it even ends with a wacky rap battle battle with an evil villain who wants to turn everything into noodles. We have to convince him that there's more good food than just noodles, and he even has a dramatic backstory with his parents only feeding him burgers because they own a burger joint. It's just so good. And the new character Mushisha is actually a sister of the driving instructor from the first game. I just think that's neat, and her song is so fucking good. That and the song Big. Those two might be my favorites in this game. You've got a total of 8 tracks to play, but it also features a 2-player mode similar to Jammer Lammy. This one really lets you mess with the lyrics as you can make your own goofy raps, and your friends will try to copy them. You can do so much silly stuff. There's also an iconic video called Chinese made by TAS Rats, and I'll link it below. Here's a sample of it. It's just 2 friends goofing around in the 2-player mode.
Chinese, 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 anything goes, even Chinese. Fuck you, thanks.
After you've beaten the game, you can also access various remixes of all the songs in the game with added difficulty, and it gives you a lot of reasons to replay songs since they'll all be a bit switched up. It's a great idea. I also really like this ending dialogue between Parappa and Sunny. He confesses to her that he doesn't really know if there's any way for him to grow up, or if that would just change who he is as a person, and she says that she likes him just the way he is. It's simple, but it's very cute, and of course it ends with another song by MC King Kong Mushi. He appears at the end of Parappa 1 and 2, and he just leads you into this final, fun, celebratory song. But there is one thing I find annoying, and this is an issue that goes for both Parappa 1 and 2. The MC King Kong Mushi songs both have a part towards the end where it switches up on you and you have to do the first raps. But you just don't expect it to come, so it's always confusing. And until you know this song really well, like by heart, you're always going to get tripped up by it. That's kind of annoying, but whatever. Overall, Parappa 2 is an excellent sequel, and just a great time all around. But sadly, it's also the last time we would get a brand new Parappa game, though that doesn't mean we don't have more to talk about. Far from it. Around the time Parappa 2 released, an anime series would come alongside it. Sadly, it was never dubbed into English, nor was it officially subtitled. The show features Parappa, Katie, Sunny, PJ Berri, and newcomers Matt and Paula as they go on wacky adventures together. It takes place before the games as the characters are kids here, while in Parappa 1 he's old enough to drive a car. Here he's going to school with his friends, often having to deal with the evil villain Gaster, who is kind of just a weird loser who isn't much of a threat, but he's really funny and I love him.
俺は悪党だ。倒れた看板も直さない。
It's noticeably low budget as the animation feels rigid and kind of limited. Some of the stories also feel a little weird, like they weren't fully fleshed out and maybe needed another pass. It feels a little awkward or clunky at times. That being said, it's still a solid show with some heartfelt moments. It's always got a few laughs in every episode. And I also have to mention that the first opening is such a banger. The song is called Love Together and you need to listen to it. It rules. The show went on for 30 episodes, and a couple of them feature additional characters from the games. Though sadly, outside of 2 cameo shots, we don't really get any Ma-san or Lammy. But we do get introduced to the new character Pinto, who's Parappa's younger sister. The only fan subs I could find are kind of bad. There's a lot of weird cursing added, like here where Katie says, which means what's with this girl, or what's with this woman. But the subtitles read, who the hell does this bitch think she is? And at this point here, Katie's just gritting her teeth and going, but they just add in text here, like, she didn't say that? She didn't say anything. A lot of people in the comments are asking, did they really say bitch in this show? And other people respond with saying, yeah, cursing is very different in Japan, they don't care. And it's annoying because they're spreading misinformation. There's some truth to cursing being more normalized in Japanese media, even if kids might watch it, but not to this extent. You might hear like a simple kiso or something. And these subtitles have a lot of lines where the wording is so confusing or just impossible to understand. So because of this, I decided decided to start making my own fan subs. I'm not that good at Japanese yet, so progress is slow. I've only subbed the first 2 episodes and I'm working on the 3rd. I'll put a Google Drive link below. If anyone wants to add to it or even change the subs, then be my guest. I can't promise that I'll be fast at uploading these, but I'm gonna try. Parappa would reappear in Sony's PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale. He'd have his own story and stage. Several of the voice actors would reappear for cutscenes and such, and he looks great in the game. But this isn't a title I've ever really been interested in. It's often called a bad Smash clone. Even though it plays a bit different, I can see where they're coming from. And besides, it just never seemed very fun to me, so I'm just gonna move on. We also got a remake of the first game on the PSP. Now we can enjoy the game in widescreen. There were added downloadable remix stages too. The visuals have been touched up and it's a solid way to experience Parappa the Rapper. I really wish we got one for Jammer Lammy as well, but what can you do? This PSP game was later remastered and ported to the PlayStation 4, and it was a pretty big deal when it came out. By this point there hadn't been a new Parappa game on home consoles since 2001. We got all kinds of merchandise and nostalgic trailers and stuff to commemorate this event. Sadly, it's hard for me to recommend the PS4 version of the game, since it seems to suffer from input lag that no other version of Parappa does. Even the original PSP version that this was ported from doesn't have this issue. It's totally playable, but it's gonna be a bit more frustrating, especially considering that Parappa 1 already had pretty tight timing. It should have been the ultimate way to experience Parappa, but instead you should only play this version if you don't want to emulate and you want to own it officially and the PS4 is your only way. A lot of people hope that this will lead to a new beginning for the franchise, but sadly it seems like it mostly ended here. This is the last Parappa game of any kind as of now. We had this sudden surge of Parappa related stuff and then it just kind of stopped. Though I'm glad to say I do have a few more things to mention. Rodney Greenblatt made a book called the Rodney Funtime Comics. In this we get several short stories, one featuring PJ Berri eating food made by Sunny Funny, but it made him have horrible dreams. It's really silly. We also have one featuring Sunny planning a tea party, watching her get all the stuff she needs while having really weird and funny interactions with the people around her. It's great. And the food she made was maybe a little more explosive than she intended. Then we got Katie's shopping explosion, where she struggles with everything in her apartment being broken or just a mess. She wins a prize where she can take home anything she manages to put in a shopping cart. Though as it turns out, most of the stuff she won has its own set of issues. But at least the hairdryer works. That's all she needed. Just a little bit of joy in her day. Last one is about Parappa, who just overheard his parents being worried about him and talking about how he ought to get a job. Oh, and if you didn't notice, this is Parappa's mom. We've seen her before in Jammer Lammy as one of the firefighters. Anyways, Parappa decides to try to get a job. Things don't go very well and he keeps running into weird issues until he's hired at a game store. He's super good at this job, but the owner sells games at such low prices that somehow he can only afford to pay Parappa in video games. But Parappa's fine with that. Also, a fun fact about Lammy and Katie. A fan would email series co-creator and illustrator Rodney Greenblatt and asked if he had heard about people shipping Lammy and Katie, which if you don't know, shipping is basically just liking the idea of two fictional characters being together romantically. Rodney said that he really liked the idea, and if they ever make a new Parappa game, he would include that. He has also made drawings of the characters celebrating Valentine's Day. I just think that's really lovely. We also have a short anime series called PJ Berri no Mogo Mogo Munya Munya, which you could translate to PJ Berri's Munching Mumblies. We got 2 seasons of it, though that only totals to about 40 minutes worth of content. It's short but incredibly sweet, and it seems to be set while the characters are a little bit older than they used to be. Chop Chop Master Onion has started up a restaurant chain and Parappa works there. PJ Berri is also an employee, but he works as an advice giver. He might be sleeping, but he's still listening to what people are saying. Someone will show up with a problem and PJ will take that issue into his dreams, in turn coming up with solutions that seem to always help the person in need. There's so many short and cute stories here. We also get to see more of Sunny Funny, all the members of Milk Can, Parappa's family, and even Matt and Paula from the anime come back. If you're a Parappa fan, I strongly recommend these. There are really well done fan subs here on YouTube that you can check out, and I'll link them down below too. And for now, that's all I wanted to say about the Parappa series. It's really great, I love the vibe of it, and the games are just so much fun. I also wanted to share this talking Parappa plush I got from Japan. It features the voice of Parappa from the anime and came out in 2001. It's weirdly interactive. If you talk to him, he'll respond. Nanda. If you lay him down, he'll say that he's getting tired. If you prop him back up again, he'll greet you. If you boop his nose, he'll laugh and say it tickles. If you don't say anything for a while, he'll say, I guess no one's there. And if you still don't say anything, he'll say, I guess I'll go to sleep. And you'll have to switch him off and back on again to make him interactive. It's such a cool plush. I got mine for like $70 on Yahoo Japan Flea Market, and I'm so happy I managed to get him. Usually one of these in good condition is like close to $200. It really helps add a lot to my Parappa collection. If only I could get a Lammy plush, but those were only available for a very short time, and they are insanely expensive now, like thousands of dollars expensive. And as you can see here, all the Parappa related things I own come from Japan. The games were just so much cheaper, and since they're all in English anyways, there's no reason for me not to go for it. But that's all I got for you this time. Thanks for watching.